Hey gang, Uncle Todd here. We're going to talk about the second episode of this season's Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And it was great. We start off with Captain Pike going to the home planet where number one, whose name is Una, I like calling her number one because that's what she was in the cage. Although she is not, if she only lived on the planet for a short time, it is her home world, where he finally convinces an old acquaintance of hers, who happens to be a lawyer, to take the case, basically by almost suffocating himself, because only people from that planet can breathe that atmosphere due to their augmentations. And he was running out of air. So, kind of one of those scenes that, yep, that's him. That's the character. Yep. Anyway, we get to the main trial. Now the captain's girlfriend is the one assigned to prosecute this, and she offers a pretty reasonable deal. Admits her wrongdoing. She's dishonorably discharged, and she can go wherever. Number one refuses. She doesn't feel she may have broken the law, but she did not do anything wrong. And when the deal is rejected, a vice admiral, a Vulcan vice admiral, decides to be co-counsel on this case, and they're going for the max. 20 years at a penal colony. Not playing around here. So, for most of the trial, we get some interesting interactions. The one admiral we've seen off and on Pike dealing with, he was the one who recommended number one to Starfleet. And he says under oath, although she's an exemplary officer, if he had known about her augmentations, he would not have recommended her. And the defense attorney brings up all the times he's violated the Prime Directive, which of course gets the whole, well, he's not the one on trial here. Then we get some very interesting character witnesses for Una. My favorite being Spock, when, as a Vulcan, he cannot lie, and when asked if he thought that she was hiding something, he said yes. It turns out she has an abiding fondness for Gilbert and Sullivan. Of course, Singh, her past being a descendant of Khan, Noonan Singh, which, the whole eugenics war and why they have augments be illegal was brought up. And then Una herself was on the stand. Oh, little side note. Singh had been afraid her personal log had been gotten into, where she mentioned when she found out Una had been augmented. But that turns out to have been an impossibility. And, Hura's only scene, she actually refuses a command from Singh to look into all the personal logs because it's against regulations. And she cannot do that even for the right reasons, because that would just get Singh in trouble too. Okay. Una's on the stand. And we learn a lot about her past and the persecution and the bullying and how she decided, her and her family decided that they would try and pass. The reason all this was happening was they were on a planet that had Federation rule, but was not part of the Federation. And which is why they were there, how they could be there, and how this was all going down. And we also learned that she was the one who turned herself in because it was wrong. She should not be forced to live a lie. She should be accepted for who and what she is. Well, in the cross-examination, the Vulcan counsel, the only time he has said anything, asks how long Pike knew that Una was augmented. Turns out about a month. Well, he postulates from logic that obviously this is a conspiracy because he kept her secret. Then, when all seems darkest, the counselor pulls out her trump card, so to speak. The Federation uniform regulations. Specifically, the ones about amnesty. If someone is persecuted and seeking amnesty with the Federation and in Starfleet, it is to be granted, and the captain is up to his own discretion on how to deal with it. And so after an impassioned speech, the three judges, a human, a Vulcan, and I cannot remember the race of the third one, decide that things cannot be decided unilaterally by law. It has to be a case-by-case basis. And basically, amnesty is granted to Una, and she is returned to her command. Okay, it was a good episode. Very classic Trek-like, where it's dealing with modern issues in a futuristic setting. Basically prejudice, and how often has Star Trek dealt with prejudice? I did find interesting, Vulcans are not as logical as they like to pretend to be. It is obvious that the Vulcan counselor has an axe to grind with Pike. And that's the whole reason he got himself assigned. He's Vice Admiral, he can do that, to that case. And although subtle, there are times, especially during his speech about the conspiracy, where he's awful smug. And that was like, he's not as logic as he likes to be. There's some emotion in there, some animosity, ambition. Which also brings us to like the great one humorous moment in the episode where the pilot and the doctor are in the rec hall, and they see Spock and the Vulcan prosecutor across the way having a discussion. They're just very rigidly sitting across from each other and talking. And the pilot is making all these snide comments, doing impressions of them, and how their logic and everything, and they're agreeing on everything because it's also logical. And the doctor says, "You don't notice the tension?" "We don't notice the tension. He's the audience." And she's like, "No, what tension?" He's like, "You've been around Vulcans long enough, you get to know the subtleties of them." And she scoffs at it. And then Spock comes over to the table and says, "I regret you had to witness my outburst. I do apologize, but he brings out the worst in me." And then he goes off, and they just kind of have this pause and then start laughing. And it's a heavy-handed episode, and it was in need of some kind of levity, and that was a great moment. So was Spock's moment on the stand, where the Gilbert and Sullivan thing. And the last thing we get, which will give you all the feels, is after everyone's congratulated Una on her return, and she's told them all to get to their stations because she's second in command, she's number one. Stations, everyone. As soon as they're alone, Pike gives her a hug. That was nice. Well, another great episode. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.